A stork soared high in the night sky, circling over the grounds of the circus. Each bird was delivering a special bundle to an animal waiting below. Baby animals peeked out from their blankets, happy to meet their mamas and papas. A hopeful elephant named Mrs. Jumbo looked up at the sky, but no bundle arrived for her. The next morning, the circus prepared to leave its winter grounds. It was time to start traveling by train from town to town, putting on a show for people everywhere. Puff, puff, toot, toot. The circle train was getting ready to go. All aboard, shouted the ringmaster. Mrs. Jumbo took one last look at the sky as she climbed into the train. Where was her baby? Up in the clouds, a stork put down his heavy load to check his map. He spotted the circus train and finally found Mrs. Jumbo. Sign here, please, the stork instructed as he gave Mrs. Jumbo her bundle. Some other elephants were watching nearby. Hurry and open it, dearie, one of them called. Mrs. Jumbo untied the blanket. Inside was a precious baby elephant. She named him Jumbo Jr. But then the other elephants noticed that the baby had huge ears. Aren't they funny? Teased one of the elephants. Instead of Jumbo, the mean elephants called the new baby Dumbo. Mrs. Jumbo didn't care what the other elephants thought. To her, Dumbo was perfect. Mother and baby snuggled happily together as they settled down to sleep. Time passed. Soon Dumbo was big enough to help the other elephants set up the big top tent when the circus arrived in a town. Dumbo was even big enough to march in the circus parade behind Mrs. Jumbo, although he sometimes tripped over his long ears as he walked. The townspeople came to see the circus. When some boys noticed Dumbo, they started laughing at him and making fun of his ears. Mrs. Jumbo didn't like that one bit. Angrily, she chased the boys away. That caused trouble. Mrs. Jumbo was locked up in chains for the way she had acted. Poor little Dumbo was all alone. The other elephants wouldn't even talk to Dumbo. Timothy, Hugh Mouse, noticed how badly the other elephants were treating Dumbo. Poor little guy, Timothy said to himself. There he goes, not a friend in the world. I'll do something about that. Timothy walked over to the elephants. So you like to pick on little guys? He asked them. Well, why don't you pick on me? Eek, a mouse, screamed the elephants. They were terrified of Timothy, just as he had expected. At first, Dumbo was afraid of Timothy too, but soon they became friends. Timothy decided that Dumbo needed to be the star of the circus, that no one would make fun of the little elephant's ears, and Mrs. Jumbo would be set free. So that night, while everyone was asleep, Timothy slipped into the ringmaster's tent and whispered an idea into his ear. The next morning, the ringmaster thought he had dreamed up a wonderful new idea for the elephant act all by himself. That night, he had all the elephants stand on top of each other while balancing on a tiny ball. Behind the curtain, little Dumbo got ready to run out, jump on a springboard, and land on top of the pile for the big finish. I give you Dumbo, the ringmaster called. That's your cue. Go on, encouraged Timothy, who had tied up Dumbo's ears so that he wouldn't trip. Dumbo ran out, but his ears became untied, and he tripped onto the springboard. Dumbo tumbled into the ball, holding everyone up. Dum. Uh-oh, the wobbly pile of elephants toppled over. One of them knocked into the tent pole. Quack. The entire big top tent came crashing down. It was a disaster. From then on, Dumbo wasn't allowed to perform with the elephants any longer. Instead, the ringmaster made him dress up as a clown. Poor Dumbo even had to jump from a burning building into a tub of whipped cream. The audience loved it, the clowns loved it, but Dumbo was sadder than ever. To cheer up his friend, Timothy brought Dumbo to see his mother. Mrs. Jumbo reached her long trunk out the window and cradled her baby. Dumbo missed her very much. Finally, it was time for bed. Dumbo and Timothy went to sleep. That night, Dumbo had a very strange dream. The next morning, Dumbo and Timothy woke up in a tree. When Dumbo realized where he was, he tumbled to the ground and landed in a pond. Splash! Timothy couldn't help but wonder how they had ended up in a tree. Then he had an idea. "That's it," Timothy exclaimed. "Dumbo, you flew! Your ears! Why, they're perfect wings! The very things that held you down are going to carry you up and up and up." Timothy promised Dumbo, but the little elephant didn't think he could fly. So Timothy told Dumbo that a magic feather would help him fly. Then, with a little encouragement, Dumbo was soaring. That night, Dumbo was performing in the clown act again. The clowns had made the burning tower building taller than ever. Timothy hid in Dumbo's hat, encouraging his friend. As Dumbo jumped from the building, the feather slipped out of his trunk. Without it, Dumbo lost all his confidence. The little elephant wasn't flying, he was falling. Timothy quickly told Dumbo the feather had just been a trick. "You can fly," Timothy shouted. At the last second, Dumbo opened his ears and zoomed over the crowd. The audience cheered. "We did it! We did it!" cried Timothy. They had done it. Dumbo the flying elephant was a star. Of course, Timothy became his manager. But best of all, Mrs. Jumbo was set free. As the circus train rumbled off into the sunset towards the next town, Dumbo hugged his mother. The little elephant with the big ears was happy at last. See the circus. There are lots of things to see at the circus. Can you help Dumbo find and count?